Hello, this is day 7 of reading the Divine Comedy, one canto at a time. We are on Inferno, canto number 7. I'll begin by reading through the Longfellow translation of the chapter before some reflections. Pape, Satan! Pape, Satan! Alepe! Thus Plutus with his clucking voice began, and that benignant sage, who all things knew, said, to encourage me, "Let not thy fear harm thee, for any power that he may have shall not prevent thy going down this crag." Then he turned round unto that bloated lip, and said, "Be silent, thou accursed wolf, consume within thyself with thine own rage. Not causeless is this journey to the abyss, thus it is willed on high, where Michael wrought vengeance upon the proud adultery. Even as the sails, inflated by the wind, involved together, fall when snaps the mast, so fell the cruel monster to the earth. Thus we descended into the fourth chasm, gaining still farther on the dolesome shore, which all the woe of the universe ensacks. Justice of God, who heaps up so many new toils and sufferings as I beheld? And why doth our transgression waste us so? As doth the billow there upon Charybdis, that breaks itself on that which it encounters, so here the folk must dance their roundelay. Here I saw people, more than elsewhere, many, on one side and the other, with great howls, rolling weights forward by main force of chest. They clashed together, and then at that point each one turned backward, rolling retrograde, crying, "Why keepest?" and "Why squanderest thou?" Thus they returned along the lurid circle, on either hand unto the opposite point, shouting their shameful metre evermore. Then each, when he arrived there, wheeled about through his half-circle to another joust, and I, who had my heart pierced, as it were, exclaimed, "My master, now declare to me what people these are, and if all were clerks, these shaven crowns upon the left of us." And he to me, "All of them were a squint in intellect in the first life, so much that there with measure they no spending made. Clearly enough their voices bark it forth, whene'er they reach the 2 points of the circle, where sunders them the opposite defect. Clerks those were, who no hairy covering have on the head, and popes and cardinals, in whom doth avarice practice its excess. And I, my master, among such as these, I ought forsooth to recognize some few who were infected with these maladies. And he to me, "Vain thought thou entertainest. The undiscerning life which made them sordid now makes them unto all discernment dim. Forever shall they come to these 2 buddings. These from the sepulchre shall rise again with the fist closed, and these with tresses shorn. Ill-giving and ill-keeping the fair world have taken from them, and placed them in this scuffle. Whate'er it be, no words adorn I for it. Now canst thou, son, behold the transient farce of goods that are committed unto fortune, for which the human race each other buffet. For all the gold that is beneath the moon, or ever has been, of these weary souls could never make a single one repose. Master, I said to him, now tell me also, what is this fortune which thou speakest of, that has the world's goods so within its clutches? And he to me, O creatures imbecile, what ignorance is this which doth beset you? Now will I have thee learn my judgment of her. He whose omniscience everything transcends, the heavens created, and gave who should guide them, that every part to every part may shine, distributing the light in equal measure. He in like manner to the mundane splendors ordained a general ministress and guide, that she might change at times the empty treasures from race to race, from one blood to another, beyond resistance of all human wisdom. Therefore one people triumphs, and another languishes in pursuance of her judgment, which hidden is, as in the grass, a serpent. Your knowledge has no counterstand against her. She makes provision, judges, and pursues her governance, as theirs the other gods. Her permutations have not any truce. Necessity makes her precipitate. So often cometh who his turn obtains. And this is she who is so crucified even by those who ought to give her praise, giving her blame amiss and bad repute. But she is blissful, and she hears it not. Among the other primal creatures, gladsome she turns her sphere, and blissful she rejoices. Let us descend now unto greater woe. Already sinks each star that was ascending when I set out, and loitering is forbidden. We crossed the circle to the other bank, near to a fount that boils, and pours itself along a gully that runs out of it. The water was more sombre far than purse, and we, in company with the dusky waves, made entrance downward by a path uncouth. A marsh it makes, which has the name of Styx, this tristful brooklet, when it has descended down to the foot of malign grey shores. And I, who stood intent upon beholding, saw people mud besprent in that lagoon, all of them naked and with angry look. They smote each other not alone with hands, but with the head, and with the breast and feet, tearing each other piecemeal with their teeth. Said the good master, Son, thou now beholdest the souls of those whom anger overcame. And likewise I would have thee know for certain, beneath the water people are, who sigh and make this water bubble at the surface, as the eye tells thee wheresoe'er it turns. Fixed in the mire, they say, we sullen were in the sweet air, which by the sun is gladdened, bearing within ourselves the sluggish reek. Now we are sullen in the sable mire. This hymn do they keep gurgling in their throats, for with unbroken words they cannot say it. Thus we went circling round the filthy fen, a great arc twixt the dry bank and the swamp, with eyes turned unto those who gorged the mire. Unto the foot of a tower we came at last. So today we see two different circles of hell in one canto. In the fourth circle, the first one, we have those who were extremely greedy and avaricious, and also those who squandered their wealth, those who wasted it and misused it. And in fact, they are eternally fighting against each other, rolling great weights to knock against the other side, all going around a circle. This circle is actually the wheel of fortune, the thing that they struggled so hard against during life. And that's our contrapasso. They struggled against fortune, trying their best to beat it or ignore it, and now they are constantly walking around it against those who have the opposite sin. Fittingly, Plutus is the classical god of wealth, and he's the one overseeing their punishment. The Longfellow translation is not clear to a modern ear, but Dante sees many who are tonsured. That is, they have the middle of their scalps shaved, kind of like you see for monks. And Dante asks Virgil, are these all priests? The Longfellow translation says clerks. What he meant was, clerics. And Virgil says, yeah, there's a lot of priests in there. There's a lot of cardinals. There's a lot of popes. Now, at the time of the Divine Comedy's writing, and in fact, prior to that, there was quite a bit of corruption amongst the church hierarchy, pretty famously. But also Dante was especially familiar with that, as many popes and cardinals and bishops, they took part in the political struggles going on in Italy. I want to say in the canto before, there's a note from Mark Musa that claims that I think Boniface VIII, one of the popes, was partially responsible for Dante's exile. Important to note that this does not cause Dante to lose faith in the church. Rather, he is recognizing that these particular individuals have committed a certain sin. The way he speaks about Rome and the papal see, it's clear that he has not lost faith in the institution of the church itself, only the people who have misused their power and influence within it. This is not the first time or the last that Dante has dunked on clergy who have misused their power, so I'll point it out only sparingly going forward, just to make sure you know who he's talking about, but just know that it comes up a lot, because at the time that he was writing, it was a big problem. After that, Virgil says something extremely interesting. Dante asks, well, if there's popes and cardinals and bishops in here, I should be able to recognize some of them, right? And Virgil says, no, because they led very undistinguished lives. And so, it's very hard to distinguish them now. This is its own kind of contrapasso, and something that actually is true in life as well. I've heard it said once that if you take any 10 extremely greedy people and line them up, ask them what their lives are like, what they do, what they desire, how they treat people, they're all kind of going to be probably about the same, you know? Or the same with the extremely violent, right? Or even the extremely lustful. They're all going to share a lot of traits. And although they obviously are different people, in life and here, in Dante, in death, in hell, they're not very distinguishable. They kind of all are the same because sin is boring. It diminishes your personality. It diminishes the light of life that is within you. Whereas, as we'll see 2 months from now when we reach the Paradiso, each of the saints is so unique. They're in the full bloom of their own unique personality. And Dante does his best to show each one as such. Yes, they all love God and they all spend time praying, but that's where the similarities end. You have rough and tough saints, you've got gentle ones. There's such great variety. Anyways, that's what I think Virgil means by that. He also does a quick overview of Fortune. He personifies Fortune as a woman who is in charge of making sure that all goods, all wealth, cycles, that it never stays with any one person for very long. No matter what people do about it, no matter what intellect or wisdom you bring to it, eventually the wheel of fortune turns and different people rise and different people fall. And those who are punished in this circle sought to rebel against that process. Then they move on to the river Styx, which, according to Mark Musa, is a bog, just like in the Aeneid. I was wrong, by the way. The initial river with the ferryman, that's some other river. The Styx, now, this is the second river. And here we have both the wrathful and the slothful punished. Those who are wrathful and violent are struggling against each other on the surface, acting exactly the same as they did in life, beating at each other, clawing, biting, whatever. And Virgil tells Dante that the slothful are beneath the water, far beneath the water, and that they are constantly singing this horrible hymn, just explaining what they're there for, that they can't even get out. They can't even get out in unbroken words because they're underwater. They can't even be bothered to swim to the surface. Both of these contrapassos are exact imitations of how these sorts of sinners acted during their lives, according to Dante, not the reversal like we see with the greedy in the fourth circle. Really quick though, the hymn that the slothful sing is so important. Sluggish we were in the sweet air made happy by the sun, and the smoke of sloth was smoldering in our hearts. What does that mean? That means in the sweet air, in the wonderful sun that gladdens the world, that they chose not to be gladdened by good things. You might think that being slothful is just being lazy, but no. Dante's trying to show us, at least in my understanding, that being slothful is a refusal to be gladdened by the good. And so those that are slothful are usually bored and also very ungracious, and usually also suffer from ingratitude. They do not recognize the good that is surrounding them. And here in hell, they continue to do the same thing as they did in life. That's it for Canto 7. I'll see you tomorrow.